I turned around slowly, my heart thumping in my chest. That woman, the one with the sharp smile, was staring right at me. I felt the bar fade around us. Her eyes seemed to bore into me like she could see my soul. "You're finally here," she said again, her voice smooth and low. I wanted to reply, but the words didn't come. I just nodded. The bar felt colder now, and I shivered. She slid onto the stool next to me and leaned in. "You know why? You've been searching, haven't you?" "Searching? For what?" I couldn't think of anything to say. I felt trapped. I didn't want to engage, but I couldn't look away. "Tell me your name," she said, and her gaze intensified. "Jake." I finally managed to whisper. The name felt heavy on my tongue. "Ah, the accountant. The numbers, the order. But you crave chaos too, don't you?" That caught me off guard. How could she know? I felt anger bubbling up inside me. "I don't know what you're talking about." My voice was steadier than I felt. She smiled that sharp smile again, and it made my skin crawl. "Oh, but you do. You felt it, haven't you? The stirrings of something darker?" I glanced around the bar. The other patrons seemed to blur, their laughter echoing like distant thunder. I focused on her again. "What do you mean?" "Is here, Jake. In this place. You shouldn't have come back." Her words felt heavy and twisted. I wanted to run, but I was rooted to my seat. "What are you talking about?" "Tonight it awakens." I felt my stomach drop. "Awakens?" I managed. "Awakens what?" Just then, the bartender wiped a glass and glared at us. "Keep it down, folks." But he sounded distant, like he wasn't really there. The woman turned back to me. "Are you really ready to face the truth?" I hesitated. My gut screamed at me to leave, yet part of me was curious. "What truth?" "Look inside yourself, Jake. Your past is waiting." Suddenly, the lights flickered overhead. A gust of cold wind swept through the bar. The laughter turned into whispers. I couldn't make out the words, but I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "I need to go." But she reached out and grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "You can't run from this. It'll find you. You'll never escape." I yanked my arm away and backed up. My pulse raced, and fear clawed at my throat. "Let me go." In that moment, the room fell silent. It was just me and her. I could hear my own breath cutting through the quiet. "Jake," she whispered, her voice trembling with a strange mix of excitement and fear. "You must choose." "Choose?" I cried, confusion wrapping around me. And then, the shadows in the corners of the bar twisted and shifted. I caught glimpses of figures blurred and grotesque forming in the darkness. My heart sank. "Not all choices are the same," she said, her eyes glowing. "You must decide if you want to see what lies beneath." Before I could answer, the lights flickered again, and the figures surged forward. My instincts kicked in. I turned and ran, bursting through the bar's door into the rain-soaked street. As I stumbled away, I heard her voice follow me. "You can't escape, Jake." I didn't look back. I was terrified, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Something was waiting for me, something that wanted me to uncover the truth. The rain blurred everything behind me as I ran. I had no idea what lay ahead, but I knew this wasn't over. The streets felt surreal as I darted away from the bar, the rain drumming relentlessly against my skin. Each drop struck like a reminder of the woman's words. "Is here, Jake. In this place." I wanted to forget, to shake it all off, but the weight of her gaze lingered. I rounded a corner and came to a halt, gasping for breath. The street was eerily empty, even for a late-night downpour. My mind raced with questions, but the biggest was why I ever came back to this town. I had left for a reason. Then I spotted the diner, a flickering neon sign reading "Open 24 hours." Maybe I could find some sense of grounding there. I forced my feet forward, pushing through the door. A bell jingled, and a waft of greasy food hit me like a wave. The diner was nearly empty except for a woman sitting in the far booth. She wore a dark coat, her hair obscured beneath a wide-brimmed hat. Something about the way she stared made my gut twist, just like the woman from the bar. I quickly took a seat at the counter, forcing my eyes forward. "Coffee?" asked a weary-looking waitress, a pencil behind her ear. Her voice broke the tension, and I nodded eagerly. I needed something to take the edge off. As I waited, I couldn't help but feel an unease creeping back in. The rain tapped against the windows, but it was the feeling of being watched that gnawed at me. I glanced sideways at the woman in the booth, who hadn't moved an inch. She leaned back, lifting her chin. "You should pay attention, Jake." My heart dropped. How did she know my name? I shot a glance at the waitress, but she was busy pouring coffee for a truck driver. "What do you want?" I demanded, feeling the tension in my chest tighten. "Things are set in motion and you can't outrun them." Her voice was smooth, almost melodic, but it sent chills down my spine. "Get away from me," I said, turning back to the counter. I wanted to push her out of my mind, to reconnect with the reality of coffee and greasy food. But just as my cup arrived, the lights flickered overhead, plunging the diner into temporary darkness. Gasps echoed around me, and when the lights returned, the woman was gone. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As I sipped my coffee, an unsettling thought crossed my mind. Wasn't that the same seat that the woman from the bar had occupied? No way. I couldn't be imagining this. "Everything all right, hon?" the waitress asked, concern trailing her brow. "Yeah, just tired." I waved her off, but my hands were shaking now. Before I could regain my composure, a sound pierced through the din. A soft whispering that seemed to rise from nowhere. My heart raced as I strained to listen. "Jake, you have to wake up." I froze, looking around. No one else seemed to hear it. Then the waitress leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You can't ignore the signs. They'll come for you." "What?" I muttered, trying to convince myself this was all some cosmic joke. But the fear in her eyes reflected my own. I bolted from my seat just as the diner's door swung open. A chill swept in, and that unmistakable woman stepped inside, her sharp smile slicing through the air. "Are you ready to choose?" she asked as the world around me went still. I stumbled back, knowing this was only the beginning. I backed away, bumping into the counter. The woman's grin widened, and her presence seemed to suck all the air from the room. My mind raced. What choice was she talking about? Choice? I echoed, sounding more like a scared child than the man I wanted to be. Her laughter was soft yet hollow. "You're already caught in the web, Jake. The question is how you want to play it." I felt a rush of adrenaline. I had to leave. I turned on my heel and dashed for the door, heart pounding. But the waitress's voice stopped me in my tracks. "Jake, you can't run from this," she shouted. I hesitated, glancing back. The waitress looked genuinely frightened, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. "You need to listen to her. It's not just a game. This was far from a game." But before I could respond, the lights went out again. Darkness enveloped me, and panic surged through my veins. I heard whispers again, filling my ears like ants crawling up my skin. "Choose? Choose." When the lights flickered back on, I was faced with empty booths and the waitress's terrified expression. The woman had disappeared. Just like that, she was gone. My breath came in shallow gulps. "Did you see that?" I asked, voice shaking. The waitress nodded slowly, eyes wide. She's been coming here for a long time. You're not the first." "What does she want?" I asked. I needed answers. I needed to know why this was happening to me. "People say she offers choices, but it always leads to something dark," she replied, biting her lip. "I don't know what you told her, but people don't come back the same. They vanish or worse." A chill crept up my spine. My thoughts raced to the woman at the bar, the warnings, the strange occurrences. What had I stepped into? Is there a way to break it? I asked, desperation creeping in. "I wish I knew," she said, her gaze drifting to the window, watching as the rain continued to pour. "But once you're marked, you're marked. You can't go back." Frustration boiled within me. I turned abruptly and headed for the door, determination igniting. Whatever this was, I wasn't going to let it take me down without a fight. As I stepped outside, the storm seemed to whisper its own warnings. Just then, A figure loomed in the hazy streetlight. It was a man, soaked to the bone, his eyes hollow and sunken. Something in his stare felt familiar and unsettling. "Jake," he called, his voice heavy with purpose. "You're in danger. I know what she wants from you." I froze, fear clawing at me. Before I could respond, he reached into his pocket. "You need this," he said, pulling out a small silver locket. "It's your only chance." "Who are you?" I managed to choke out. "I'm someone who has been where you are now," he replied, stepping closer. Then, silence hung thick in the air, and I knew my choice was looming again. I had to make a decision, and fast. I took a step back, clutching the doorframe as I processed his words. The rain lashed at my face, cold and stinging like a warning. There was something about this man that made my instincts scream at me to run. Yet, the locket gleamed in the dim light, beckoning me closer. "Why should I trust you?" I asked, my voice quaking despite my intention to sound firm. He hesitated, as if pondering the weight of his next words. "'Cause I tried to ignore her too. I thought I could outsmart her. But it doesn't work that way. She knows what you secretly want, but she twists it into something terrible." I glanced back towards the darkened diner, dread creeping up my spine. "What do you mean? What did she want from you?" He looked pained, and I saw the ghost of fear pass over his features. "More than you can imagine. She will prey on your weaknesses and offer you something that seems perfect. But it always comes at a cost." Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the street, and I caught a glimpse of something swirling in the shadows behind him. My heart raced and instinct kicked in. "What is that?" I shouted, pointing. His gaze darted behind him and his expression darkened. "She's here," he said, barely above a whisper. I turned to look, but the shadows were just shadows. I didn't see anything or anyone. "I don't want this," I said, the panic rising in my chest. "I didn't ask for any of this." "You can't escape it," he replied urgently. "But you can fight back. The locket will protect you if you make the right choice. You have to confront her." In my gut, I felt a mix of defiance and fear. What if I refused to play? The man stepped forward, his wet clothes clinging to him, making him look more like a lost soul than a savior. "There's no refusing. You've already made your choice just by being here. Don't you see?" As his words sunk in, the weight of my predicament settled in the air like a dense fog. Everyone said choices defined you. This choice felt like a sentence. I just want to go home," I mumbled, almost to myself. "Then go," he snapped, frustration clear in his tone. "But mark my words, she'll find you again. You can't hide from what's already in motion." Clenching my fists, I debated whether to take the locket or flee. Suddenly, the wind shifted, carrying with it the faint sound of whispers hers. "I'm waiting, Jake." The urgency hammered through my veins. I reached for the locket. My fingers brushed against its cool surface. "What do I do?" I pressed for answers. "Wear it. When you face her, don't show fear. And remember, she twists the truth. Stay strong." Before I could ask more, he stumbled back, looking lost. "Go!" he shouted. And just like that, he dissolved into the night. I stood alone, the street empty and the storm raging on. I wrapped my fingers tightly around the locket, feeling its weight in my palm. My heart raced as I realized I no longer knew what the right choice was. Then, a low laugh pierced the air, soft, seductive, and chilling. It wrapped around me like a sinister embrace. "Are you ready to play, Jake?" I took a deep breath. Whatever happened next was up to me. The choice was mine to make, but in that moment, I still felt trapped. The shadows stirred again, and I knew that my confrontation with her was inevitable. I stepped away from the doorframe, clutching the locket as if it could offer me protection from the shadows. The world around me blurred, haunted by the laugh that still echoed in my ears. It was a twisted game, and I was the unwilling player. I had no other option but to confront whatever waited for me in the dark. The rain drenched my clothes as I walked hesitantly down the street, searching for answers amidst the tempest. My mind raced with questions. Who was she really? What did she want from me? Ahead, The lights of the diner flickered like fireflies, and I felt an odd pull towards them. I hoped that maybe I could find refuge inside, away from the darkness. But as I stepped through the door, the familiar warmth quickly turned cold. The diner, once a safe haven, now felt just as shadowy as the outside world. "Hey, Jake," a voice called from my left. It was Sam, the waitress, her eyes bright with a smile that suddenly seemed forced. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Something like that," I replied, forcing a chuckle to mask my unease. I could feel her scrutinizing me, her gaze lingering on the locket in my hand. "Has anyone else come in here tonight? Anyone unusual?" She frowned, her smile fading. "Not really. Just the usual crowd. But something feels off tonight, doesn't it?" I nodded, caught off guard by her observation. "Yeah, it does." That was when I noticed a man seated alone in the corner booth. He was hooded, shadows obscuring his face. Something about him felt unnerving, as if he was watching every move I made. I turned my attention back to Sam, trying to shake the feeling. "Is he new?" Sam looked over and shrugged. "I guess he has been here a few times this week." Without thinking, I walked toward the man. My stomach twisted with apprehension, but there was a strange pull that compelled me. As I approached, the air felt thick and charged, like the calm before a storm. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice low but steady. I hesitated. "I just wanted to know why you're always here." He chuckled softly, a disconcerting sound. "Sometimes we gravitate to darkness, Jake. It's more appealing than the light, don't you think?" "What do you mean by that?" He leaned forward, revealing eyes that glimmered with something unsettling. "When you've tasted despair, it becomes a part of you. You can deny it, but it never really goes away. It only waits." A chill ran down my spine, and I stepped back, utterly lost. My gaze shifted to Sam, but she had already retreated to the kitchen, leaving me alone with the stranger. I could feel his eyes on me, penetrating. "I know about her," he said almost too casually. "I've seen what she can do. She'll offer you everything you think you want." "What do you know?" I snapped, my heart pounding. "More than I wish I did," he replied, straightening in his seat. "Just remember, Jake, everything has a price." In that moment, a sudden crash made everyone in the diner jump. The lights flickered again, plunging us into darkness. My pulse quickened as I glanced at the window. Rain poured harder, and the outside world vanished behind a curtain of water. Then, just as quickly as it had gone dark, the lights returned. I turned back to the booth, but the man was gone, as if he had never existed at all. I steadied myself, my breathing erratic. Then I spotted a small slip of paper left on the table where he had been sitting. I approached cautiously and reached for it. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. "Face her with courage," it read, "or prepare to lose everything." I crumpled it in my fist, dread filling my stomach. There was something more about this game. It was deeper and far more dangerous than I ever imagined. Then, before I could recover, I felt a cool breeze sweep through the diner, and I knew she was coming for me. I looked toward the door, my heart racing. I needed to find a way out before she found me first. I pushed through the diner door, the gust of wind chill hitting me like a slap. I shivered, glancing back over my shoulder. The flickering overhead lights felt alive, a mocking reminder of what I had just experienced. I had to get away. I didn't know where I was running, but I couldn't stay here. As I stepped into the rain-soaked street, adrenaline kicked in. I moved instinctively, each footfall splashing through puddles, the rhythm driving me forward. My mind reeled, the stranger's words echoing in my head. Everything has a price. What price was I willing to pay to uncover the truth? I turned down a side road, away from the diner, the shadows of the buildings creeping around me. Just as I began to gather my thoughts, a figure emerged from the darkness ahead. My heart raced again as I slowed to a halt. It was a woman, soaked through, her hair matted against her face. She looked lost, and for a brief moment, I felt an urge to help her. "Are you okay?" I asked, cautiously stepping forward. She raised her head slowly, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. "I need to find him," she said, her voice shaky. "Who are you looking for?" But before she could answer, the same eerie laughter that haunted my dreams sliced through the night. I recoiled, looking around frantically. The woman's expression changed too, fear etched across her wet face. "We have to go. She's coming." "Who?" In a blink, I felt a terrifying presence behind me. The air thickened like a fog closing in. The woman grabbed my arm, her grip iron-tight. "Run." We sprinted down the street, the sound of our footsteps drowned out by the pounding rain. I didn't know who she was or why I was trusting her, but instinct drove me. I could feel the darkness pursuing us, crawling up my spine like ice. We turned another corner, and suddenly, we were in front of an old bar that I didn't recognize. The neon sign buzzed erratically, casting flickering shadows on the pavement. "In here," the woman urged, pulling me through the door just as a low growl echoed behind us. Once inside, I slammed the door shut and leaned against it, catching my breath. The dimly lit bar was nearly empty, the atmosphere thick with smoke and uncertainty. A lone figure sat at the far end of the bar, head down, nursing a drink. I locked eyes with the woman beside me, panic rising again. "What was that?" I gasped. "Who is after us?" She looked toward the door, then back at me, her expression hardened with resolve. "You don't know, do you? You're in deep, Jake." She won't stop. Not until she gets what she wants. "What does she want from me?" I breathed, feeling the walls close in. At that moment, the bartender, an older man with weary eyes, stepped forward. "You two look like you've seen a ghost," he said, a knowing smile creeping up his face. "You have no idea," the woman murmured. "That's when I saw it." A small, shimmering object lying on the bar next to the bartender. My pulse quickened as I recognized it, a locket identical to the one still clutched tightly in my hand. It was a piece of her story, whatever that meant. The air around me thickened, filled with the unease of paused breaths and uncertainties. As the woman and I turned toward the bartender, I felt a cold draft sweep through the bar again, making my skin crawl. "We need answers," I said, desperation creeping into my voice, "and it's time we get them." But as I spoke, the lights flickered again, plunging the bar into darkness. A familiar laughter echoed through the shadows, and I knew we were not safe yet. The darkness felt alive, wrapping around us like a shroud. I squinted into the pitch, trying to make sense of the laughter that seemed to swirl in from every direction. My heart thudded in my chest as I took a small step back toward the door, feeling the weight of the shadows press in. The woman beside me stiffened. "Don't move," she whispered urgently. With my breathing growing shallow, I nodded, instinctively glancing around for any sign of danger. The bartender, once so easygoing, now seemed to blend into the darkness like a ghost. I strained my eyes, searching for the locket, the glimmering piece of the puzzle that connected us. It had to mean something. Just as I started to relax my guard, the lights flickered back to life. My relief faded fast. The room felt heavier now, charged with an energy I couldn't place. The bartender's smile was gone, replaced by an expression I couldn't quite decipher. "Why are you here?" he asked, his tone grave. "What do you mean?" I replied, confusion swirling in my mind. "You should go," he said, gesturing toward the exit. "She's looking for you, and she won't be stopped." "Who is she's?" I pressed, but the bartender only shook his head, his weary eyes scanning the room as if expecting someone to appear. The woman beside me stepped forward, her voice steady despite the apprehension in her demeanor. "We're not leaving until we have a chance to talk. Not until we know what we're up against." The bartender sighed. "You don't understand the danger you're in. If she finds you before he could finish." The bar door slammed open. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, backlit by the streetlights outside. I felt a chill race down my spine. She was here. The woman's grip on my arm tightened, and I could see the fear in her eyes as we both stared at the newcomer. The figure stepped inside, pushing the rain-drenched hair away from her face. It was a woman, but not just any woman. It was my nightmare personified. A smooth smile played on her lips, confidence oozing from her every pore. "Look who we have here," she said, her voice silky yet sharp like broken glass. Stay back, the bartender shouted, but the interloper only chuckled, a sound that made my stomach drop. I felt frozen, unable to move or speak. All I could do was grasp the locket tighter in my hand, as if it held some kind of power to deflect her. Jake, she purred, zeroing in on me. I've been looking for you. You have something I need. What do you want? I managed to stammer, dread pooling in my stomach. Her smile widened, and a flicker of cruel delight crossed her features. Everything has a price, remember? And you, my dear, are about to pay yours. As the words tumbled from her lips, the lights flickered again, and the laughter returned, echoing through the bar, tightening the knot of panic in my chest. The woman next to me moved slowly, putting herself between me and the stranger. We won tea, let you take him, she said defiantly. Is that so? The woman laughed, and it sent chills racing over my entire body. Let us see how brave you really are. With that, she lunged forward, and instinct kicked in. I didn't know if it was the locket or the sheer need to survive, but I found myself backing toward the door, heart pounding, adrenaline surging. The bartender reached for something behind the bar, but my eyes were locked on the intruder, feeling the weight of the moment press down on me like an anvil. What happened next was a blur, but one thing was clear. The night was far from over. The chase was just beginning. I bolted past the woman, my feet pounding against the wooden floor, and I barreled out the door. The rain was relentless, drenching me in an instant, but I couldn't stop. I heard the woman's laughter behind me, chilling and mocking. Jake, you can't run forever, she called, her voice slicing through the rain like a knife. I skidded down the slick sidewalk, my breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. My eyes darted around, searching for somewhere to hide. I had no idea what this woman wanted, but I knew it couldn't be good. My grip on the locket tightened. It felt almost warm, pulsing like a heartbeat against my palm. I turned a corner, heading toward an alley that seemed darker even than the bar. I ducked behind a dumpster, hoping it would conceal me long enough to catch my breath. The rain kept pouring, drowning out any sounds. I hugged my knees, trying to steady my racing heart. After what felt like an eternity of silence, I peeked out. The street was empty. Maybe I had lost her. My heart sank. What if she was waiting for me to make a move? Just then, I heard footsteps echoing in the alley. I held my breath as the figure walked by. It wasn't the woman, but a man with a hood pulled low over his face. Gritting my teeth, I realized I had nowhere else to go but forward. I stepped out and started to follow the man cautiously. Maybe he knew something. As I walked, I tried to ignore the chill creeping down my spine. I wasn't sure if this new stranger was a threat or a potential ally. Hey, I called out, my voice barely rising above the sound of the rain. The man glanced over his shoulder, but didn't stop. I quickened my pace, urging admiration and dread to mix in my chest. Wait, I need help. He finally turned to face me, his features obscured in shadow. You shouldn't be out here, he said, his voice low. It's dangerous. I took a step closer, urgency overpowering my hesitation. You don't know she's coming for me. I don't know why, but I can't let her catch me. He narrowed his eyes, studying me. Do you have something she wants? I lifted my hand, revealing the locket. It's the only thing I have. The man let out a low whistle, his expression morphing into something between intrigue and concern. You shouldn't flaunt that. If you're on the run, you need to hide it. Before I could respond, a deafening crash sounded from the bar, followed by a cacophony of voices. My heart dropped. She was looking for me. No time to explain, the man urged as he shrugged off his hood. We need to get you somewhere safe. Come on. I hesitated, the weight of the decision crashing down on me. I didn't know this man, but how much longer could I stay out here? I nodded, taking a deep breath to calm the storm inside. As I hurried alongside him, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. Who was this man? What was his plan? Then, in the distance, I heard the unmistakable sound of laughter, her laughter. And suddenly, I realized I had to trust him. The chase was far from over, and every choice mattered now. "Where are we going?" I asked, gripping the locket tightly. "Somewhere she can't reach you," he replied, urgency lacing his words. "At least for now." But as the laughter echoed on, I couldn't help but wonder if I was really safe at all. The man moved quickly, pulling me deeper into the shadowy alley. I struggled to keep up, my heart racing as I fought off the urge to look back. Every step echoed in the silence of the night, and the air felt thick with tension. I couldn't shake the sense that we were being watched. "Are you sure you know a safe place?" I asked, my voice trembling, nearly swallowed by the rain. "Trust me," he replied, not slowing down. His jaw was clenched, determination etched across his face. "Just keep moving." We zigzagged through backstreets, the dim glow of streetlights barely illuminating our path. As we turned another corner, I caught a glimpse of a figure lingering in a doorway, their eyes fixed on us. My stomach twisted. "Who was that?" I whispered, keeping my voice low. "Just keep going," he said, urgency in his tone. I didn't have to be told twice. I picked up my pace, adrenaline fueling every move I made. Minutes passed before we ducked into an opening that led to a hidden courtyard. The walls were stained with peeling paint, and forgotten crates stacked haphazardly obstructed our exit. The rain pounded down around us, but in here, it felt oddly silent. "What's south this place?" I asked as I scanned the area, my heartbeat slowing slightly as we paused. "An old hideout," he said, finally letting out a breath. "It's not perfect, but it'll do for now." He rested his back against the wall, and I did the same, trying to catch my breath. As I leaned against the cold stone, I could see the outlines of his features more clearly. Dark hair, sharp jawline. There was something familiar about him, but I couldn't place it. "Listen, you need to tell me everything," he said. "Why is she after you, Jake? What's the locket?" "I wish I knew," I replied, running a hand through my wet hair. "I just found it. It belonged to my mother. I didn't think much of it, but then she appeared. I swear, it's like she's been hunting me." The man's expression shifted to one of concern. "This isn't random. She's connected to your mother somehow, isn't she?" I nodded, the reality of my situation crashing down on me. "I didn't know. I just wanted to understand more about my mother, about where I came from." "Your mother must have had secrets," he said, his voice careful. "And it sounds like that woman has been keeping track of them all." At that moment, I heard the familiar laughter again, growing louder, echoing off the courtyard walls. My heart sank deep in my chest. "She's close," I murmured, panic flooding me. "What do we do?" "Follow me." He grabbed my arm and led me through the courtyard, back to the rear exit where narrow spaces offered escape routes. We emerged into another dark alley. I glanced around, alert, but the figure from earlier was nowhere in sight. "We can't let her catch us," I said, dread creeping up my spine. "That's what I'm trying to do," he replied sharply. "But we need to switch up our path." Then I saw a glint of metal reflecting the soft light from above. My eyes widened when I realized it was a dagger, nestled on the ground near a puddle. I hesitated. "That's not a good sign," the man said. "We need to move. Now." Just then, the ground began to tremble slightly beneath us. "What's happening?" I asked, fear gripping me fiercely. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," he shouted, grasping my wrist again. Before I could take another step, everything around us went dark. I stumbled forward, disoriented, the world collapsing into the eerie silence of darkness. The panic thrummed in my veins as I reached out, hoping to grasp something, anything to ground myself. A cold draft swirled around me, sending chills racing up my spine. My heart thudded against my ribs, each beat echoing in the empty void. Just when I thought the darkness would swallow me whole, a flicker of light pierced through the black shroud. I felt a surge of hope and instinctively pushed toward it. The light grew larger, illuminating the edges of the alley, and I caught a glimpse of the man, his expression taut with urgency. "Stay close," he shouted, his voice cutting through the shadows. As the light brightened, I finally saw where I was. We were back at the bar, the entrance looming before us like a portal into hell. No, we can't go back in there, I protested, fear clawing at my throat. Trust me, it's the only way, he insisted, his gaze unwavering. There was an intensity in his eyes that made me want to believe him. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the locket in my pocket pressing against my thigh, a reminder that I couldn't turn back. We burst through the doors, the familiar scent of smoke and spilled drinks flooding my senses. The atmosphere felt charged and electric, as if the very walls were pulsing with danger. The patrons were scattered, oblivious to the storm brewing outside, but I could sense something was amiss. The darkness was crawling back, seeking its prey. We reached the bartender, who looked up at us with a mix of confusion and dread. You shouldn't have come back, he warned, his voice low. There's no choice. I spat, my voice laced with desperation. What do we do? Confront her, he replied grimly. That's the only way. You have to finish what was started. Before I could process his words, the air grew thick, and the sharp laugh echoed through the bar once more. The lights flickered ominously, plunging us back into shadows before a spotlight flared to life, illuminating the figure that stood at the end of the bar. The woman, her sharp smile cutting through the fog. There you are, Jake, she purred, her voice like silk. I've been waiting. My feet felt glued to the floor, but the man beside me took a step forward, drawing the woman's gaze. Let him go, he shouted, defiance surging in his voice. He's not yours to take. The woman laughed, a chilling melody that sent shivers through me. You have no idea what you're interfering with, she said, slowly approaching. This is between us. I could feel the tension in the air as my heart raced. The locket burned against my skin, urging me to act. What do you want from me? I shouted, my voice cracking. She smiled wider, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp. I want what was promised. The truth locked away in that trinket. With a sudden surge of courage, I reached for the locket, holding it tightly in my hand. I'm not afraid of you, I declared, though I doubted the resolve behind the words. Oh, but fear is precisely what you should embrace, she said, the darkness swirling around her like a cape, gravitating toward me. It'll make everything more exciting. Everything began to blur again. The voices of the patrons faded into a cacophony of whispers, distorting reality. I raised the locket, desperate to wield whatever power it had. I don't need your chaos. I want my own answers. The woman's eyes glinted with malice, and suddenly everything clicked. You think you can control it? She taunted, stepping dangerously close. You don't know what you're playing with. As the shadows lunged toward me, I felt an instinctive pull. The truth surged forth, a wild rush of memories I could barely comprehend. You're lying. I'm breaking free. I closed my eyes, clutching the locket. Warmth pulsed through me, an inner light piercing the darkness. The shadows hesitated, colliding against an invisible barrier. When I opened my eyes, the dimly lit bar shimmered, warped by a new energy. Not here, not now, I shouted, fear turning into determination. I won't be your pawn anymore. The bar shuddered and the woman's expression cracked as her composure faltered. You can't escape the past, Jake. It will find you, she shrieked, her voice echoing with fury. As the light intensified around me, I felt the man beside me grasp my shoulder. We're breaking through. Just hold on. With a sudden brightness, the shadows erupted, and everything went white. When I opened my eyes again, I was outside, drenched in rain. The bar stood behind me, except the neon sign flickered, fading like a distant memory. I inhaled deeply, trying to process what had just happened. The man was gone, leaving me alone in the storm. I looked down at the locket, which now felt warm and oddly comforting in my palm. I didn't understand what had just transpired, or if I had truly escaped the woman's grip. A whispered warning echoed in my mind. You can't run from what you've uncovered. I shivered, looking back at the bar. I could still hear the laughter, distant and mocking. Maybe this was the end, but part of me knew it wasn't over. The questions lingered, unanswered, an uncertainty that hung in the air like the rain around me. I took a deep breath and began to walk away, But the darkness was more hauntingly beautiful than I ever imagined, and I realized I could never truly escape it. Even as I moved to leave, I felt it there, hovering at the edge of my vision, reminding me that every choice had consequences, and sometimes the darkness doesn't leave you. It lingers, waiting for the chance to consume you again.